Welcome to Clutch Kick Radio with Ryan Lackner.
Hello and welcome to the show. How are you doing, Ryan?
Good. How about you, Andy?
Doing good, buddy. Excited for our guest today, man.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. He's a new guy to me as far as knowing about him and what he does and all that, but I'm really excited to pick his brain and see what he has to say, get to know him a little better.
He's relatively new to the drift world, kind of, sort of, but boy, not to cars. I can't wait to talk to him about his resume. Holy smokes.
Yeah, he has quite the lineup going, and I know that that's part of it. Like, his dad is a big car guy, and so I know that kind of fueled some of his passions, so.
I can only imagine what I would have been able to do if I were like a car guy's son. My dad's super disappointed in me because, he got into college with a scholarship in baseball. I was just wanting to work on my go-karts. So it was like...
it was the same thing for me. It took my parents a long time to realize that I didn't need to go to college, I guess, and they were pretty upset that I didn't. And, for the longest time, they thought the same as I'm sure, most drifters' parents, the same as you thought. Andy, what are you doing? Why are you drifting? Why are you doing all this? It's pointless. It's dumb, but here we are.
We sure proved them wrong.
Welding 350Z subframes and Mercedes and things like that.
Yeah, you had a more exciting day than I did. I built Excel spreadsheets all day.
Thanks.
Hey, it's all good things. You know what I did do? A big dumpster got delivered to our place, and I've been throwing away stuff wholesale, so be proud of me, dude.
Ooh.
You know those big buckets of nuts and bolts and stuff? Mm-hmm. Put it up, man.
Oh.
They're all getting thrown away.
Nice.
I'm sure there are going to be a few people that are shedding a tear because, trust me, I have a lot of hardware. And... it just comes down to what am I going to do with all this stuff? I was keeping it, I was saving it, I built all kinds of stuff, and of course, anytime you need a nut or a bolt for anything, I just say, we'll go out to the shop. Mm-hmm. Great. I'll dump out 8 buckets to find the one nut and bolt I need. Thanks.
You know what I did, and it's actually worked pretty good so far until I gain a lot more bolts, but I got a parts washer. Just like, your typical Harbor Freight parts washer, no holes in the bottom. It's just like kind of a cheap one. Mm. And that's my bolt bin.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, you can be standing across the shop and huck a bolt because it's over in the corner, and you can hit either wall, and it'll drop down in the bucket. So
that's smart.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to walk all the way over there. That's a waste of time. Come on now.
This is the reason why he's the Clutch Kick Radio guy, ladies and gentlemen. It's ideas like that. What an absolute machine. What an animal.
There is nothing better on this earth, I'll tell you what. And standing there on the other side of my 240 and just, I'm not going to walk over there and put that bolt in there. Why would I do that?
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, none of the stuff I had was automotive bolts, so I just had to make it work. But, that's the way it goes.
I would probably do that too. But, I'm at that same place. I've downsized crazy amount. And I've... to the point of where, like, some of my stuff's even going towards what me and Jared are doing, and we're just using it as parts to supply to people and then get, like, their parts back so that we can continue to do, like, diffs and things like that. Because I have a few diffs, open diffs and things like that, and that's what I always do. I just swap people out, and then that way I always have an open one, and that way, we have one to supply. It's just quicker, easier that way, so...
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense. It's like keeping a spare transmission around.
Exactly, and I think we're just going to require, like, you can't have our diff unless you give us yours. That's just the requirement. Otherwise, we're not going to do it, so... It's
a core deposit.
It is. But except for if you don't give us a core, we're just not going to do it. Because I don't want to have to go find new ones. That's the whole thing, They're getting hard to find. So it's kind of one of those things where most people... Like, guys will hit me up and be like, oh, man, I got an open diff. Can you weld it? I'm like, yeah, it's this price, and then give me your old one. And usually it's fairly cheap, $40-$50, and I trade them out, which is pretty minimal compared to what a lot of people charge $100 to weld a diff.
Well, I assume that it's quite a bit easier once it's out of the car. You can hose the thing out, have it on your table, weld it up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And I also have, like, matching axle stubs. I've always kept the axle stubs, so all the diffs that I have matching axle stubs. So usually when I give them a diff, I'll give them those axle stubs, and I'll keep the ones, So that way, not like it probably really matters, but I don't know. A lot of them are pretty nice when you keep them together. They just work better that way.
Sure. There's no slop. They've worn together.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That makes perfect sense.
And I think we're going to end up getting a few of the common cars. We'll probably end up going and getting a couple BMW diffs, a couple other diffs, and we'll just have them on hand, all welded out, just waiting.
Nice. Okay, yeah.
That and once again, can't get away from the Mustangs. But we're going to definitely make some more people mad. I know that the Mercedes is already making people mad, and when we get this Mustang and do a little bit of this and that to it, drop an LS in it, I'm sure that'll make plenty of people's heads explode.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. We're expecting that. That's kind of the point of everything we're doing, right? I mean, it's different, but it's amazing.
Well, so what's the plan for the rear end? Are you going to stick with the solid axle, or are you guys going to go IRS?
It's going to just stick with solid axle.
Really?
Yeah, we're just going to keep that. And a part of me, I don't know. Depending on how long Jared wants it, because the car is kind of for us to make money, but if we decide to keep it for a little bit, I might try to play with a dual caliper setup. Because me and Zach extensively kind of thought about it all a long time ago when he was going to make a SN95. And so I pretty much have all that mapped out how I would do it and whatnot, and I'm curious to see if the way that I was figuring if it would work or not, or if it is just a caliper issue, which may be, I don't know. I've never played with them.
Interesting. I really would be curious to see what solutions you guys could come up with, because, and this isn't anything against the Mustang guys. I mean, listen, they've been doing it for a long time. You've been doing it for a long time.
It works.
I understand that. It works.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It works, but
it would be kind of, let me put it this way, and I'm in no way trying to suck you off right now, but it wouldn't surprise me if you found a unique solution that worked a little bit better than what's out there now.
Yeah, I've got enough Z32 calipers around because my S13's not going anywhere for a while, and I've got 4 sitting on that thing. So, and right now they're not hooked up to anything anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I might just pull a couple of those off and maybe try to go that route and see what happens, and I'll just buy new calipers for my car, or we'll buy new calipers for the Mustang before we sell it, either way.
Bro, check this out.
But I'm kind of curious.
Triple caliber setup.
Oh my, just 4 3 Z rotors. Well, I'm just curious about the Z32 rotors because PBM's making them brand new now. So that's a never-ending supply of calipers, Whereas I'm sure at some point the junkyards, even with Mustangs, I know there's a million of them out there, or however many, but at some point junkyards are going to run out and people are going to not want to buy brand new ones. But I don't know, honestly, I don't even know how much calipers are for Mustang. They might be cheap enough, it's just worth it to buy new ones. You know what I mean?
It could be, and it depends on how much room you have underneath of it to mount.
There's enough room.
Plates and okay.
There's enough room to run 2 Mustang calipers, like 2 rear Mustang calipers. Like we kind of fake mocked it up a little bit and kind of did some looking and thinking and all of that, and I don't think it's going to be that crazy much different than like for a 240, except for you have a giant axle tube you can weld stuff to, which is kind of nice. Because I feel like, that's the one problem with the 240 is you have to have that dual caliper plate that sits behind the, wheel bearing and all that, because you can't, what else are you going to do? You can't really weld it to anything. You don't really want to weld it to the knuckle, or, I don't know, that's just not really structurally sound and whatnot, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you. That's going to be an interesting project. I was looking at, kind of along the same Mustang vein, but I was looking at the Thunderbirds from like the early mid-90s.
Yeah.
I have the stupid idea, but check this out. So what if I find one of those? Because there's a bunch of them out there right now for about $1,000, some even less, and they're the 4.8 modular V8, all of that. They have the independent rear suspension, stuff like that. What if I bought one of those, we put it into gambler mode, but then once we're done gambling it, I can just bring the thing back. I'm not really planning on lifting the suspension a whole bunch. We'll probably do some body modifications, if you know what I mean, aka Sawzall everything.
Dude, you could probably just get Kurt to just build you some coilover spacers, and there'd be an inch or 2 right there. Just some clever bolting, and you could just bolt through. And
but then be able to take them off.
Mm-hmm. And then it would just be normal again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because, I mean, hey,
I think it's a good idea.
You got 300 horsepower. You have an independent rear suspension. Eventually, it will need to be manual swapped. It's a big, heavy boat of a car, but again, that's what the Sawzall's for. I don't know.
We'll just get the 3-inch hole saw out and do speed holes and everything.
I'm just throwing it out there, man. What do you think?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, it's definitely different.
It's a 32-foot long car trying to drift around Pat's Acres, but you know.
Yeah.
It's just the little stuff that I toss around. You know me, I'm a cheapskate, and so I'm always like trying to figure out how can I do this for the least amount of money possible. As a matter of fact, anybody out there watching or listening right now, go ahead and let us know in the comments what you would build that could kind of be a dual purpose, like it'd be a thrash around car, but then you're also pretty sure you'd be able to take it to the track and throw down a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So, producer Nick, you want to try giving him a call?
All right.
Let's see if we can get Matt Haugen on.
I'm glad you said Haugen.
I know. I've been telling myself all day, like, don't mess it up.
There's the man. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm getting in position.
All right. Producer Nick, can he see us? Nick, we've got it. Nick, right on top of the... There you go.
I was going to say, he doesn't want to look at you.
Are you guys on video or just phone?
No, we're on video.
We're on video, buddy.
Oh,
yeah, this is live right now.
We're getting that sorted out. Sorry about that, Matt.
Oh, you're good.
So, dude, thank you so much for talking to us today, man. Your resume. Let's just go ahead and put that out there right now. I always say to people, you know, go ahead and tell our audience about yourself and who you are and what you do. But this is going to be a long one.
You guys. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. All right, now we're good. In position.
All right.
So yeah, I don't know. Tell me where you want me to start, or
well, so
want to hear, but.
How did you first get into building cars? Because you've been doing this for a while. I know your first SEMA car was, how long ago has that been? 7, 8 years?
Yeah, so I'm 27, and my first SEMA car, like 18 years old, I think. So when I was like 16, I got a Toyota Tundra and started building that as like an off-road truck, and just was thrashing it, like like ripping the exhaust off. I broke the power steering, and it's on this brand new Toyota Tundra, and I was like, okay, this is not going to work. Like, I'm destroying this brand new nice truck. So I was like, all right, how do I get myself to stop off-roading? Let's put 26s on it and put it on air suspension. I'm going to make it so I can't go off-roading. So long story short, we did that. And then I ended up going to SEMA just as a spectator when I was 17. And I was like, oh my God, I want to get my truck in this. And, oh, there you guys are.
Yeah.
And then, so then at 18 years old, after that truck was finished, we put it in the show, and it was like a dream come true. Like, that was too cool.
That's so awesome.
Never forget it. Yeah.
That's wild. Just before you came on, I was telling Ryan, you know, I can only imagine how far along I would have been, or he would have been, if we had parents that were into cars.
Okay, you know what's funny, though? My parents aren't into cars at all.
Oh, really? I thought your dad was.
I thought your dad was.
He's like... He likes cars. He's had some cool cars, but I would explain him as like, he'll go to like the Good Guys show, Barrett Jackson auction, things like that. He'll watch some of the stuff on like Discovery Channel, but he's not doing engine swaps. He's never raced, nothing like that. So he's like, this is not derogatory in any way, but he's like your average car guy. Like, he's not not like us drifters, you know, where we're, you know, all in and
it's a little different breed.
Yeah. He's not wrenching on his drift car at 8 a.m. when the gates open at 10 a.m.
What? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, absolutely not.
So after your truck went to SEMA, what'd you guys do then afterwards? Because you've had a number of cars in SEMA, haven't you?
Yeah, so after that, like, then this was before Haugen Racing was even a thing. Like, I was in high school the first time, and then I was going to Arizona State and was on a different track. Like, just doing that, and cars was just, like, love of my life. And so I was just building cars for fun, and SEMA was just kind of part of that. Like, I had figured out how to work with the companies, and I really liked building the cars for the show and having them in the show. And so that was just, I just continued doing that for a while until I was like 21, I think. And then that's kind of when I found racing, and then like 6 months later, drifting. So, yeah.
That's an interesting transition from basically car builder to drifting.
Yeah, like that's the thing that like has made it, how do I explain it? That's what's made it so hard in a lot of ways, is like I didn't come from a racing family, or I wouldn't even, like, my family's not a car family, really. Like, my dad, he was in computer software, he did tech. So, like, when I say he had cool cars, like, he had a completely stock old Porsche, but at that time it was, like, new, you know what I mean? He bought it off the lot. So he was liked cars on, you know, some level, but as far as customizing cars and racing, anything like that, I didn't even have an uncle or a friend or anyone that was into that. And so it was really me on my own, just kind of figuring it out. And I think that I think we've figured it out fine now. But if I had someone helping me, you know, someone that was like, hey, you know, do this, or you really want to go down this road, that'd save a lot of time and money. For sure. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think we're all in that, though, because drifting's such a new sport here in the U.S. that, you know, it's like we're still kind of all the first generation. Like, it's just now kind of getting to that point where there's so much information shared that, hey, there is kind of just those building blocks. You can just go and, like, go online and search it and, like, buy all this stuff and put it on your car, you know, and it'll do what you want it to, you know what I mean? Whereas before, like, I'm sure kind of when you started, it was the same as kind of when I started. It was like you had to figure it all out. It was the same way. It was like we didn't have anyone to tell us what to do or where to go or how to do it. We were just like, all right, we need more angles, so how do we do that?
And how did you get your start in drifting, Matt?
So as I said before, after I was like building cars, so I had this Genesis coupe, and I did like a turbo kit on it, and it was on like Toyo R888s, like 305s in the rear, 295s in the front, so like, or 285s, so a fully like race car, like not even that, like a track car, right? So like weekend warrior type stuff.
3.8 V6?
What's up?
3.8 V6?
No, it was the 2.0 in like 4 turbo.
The one that I always tell people that's the better one to start with.
Yep.
I think so, yeah. It's that's like an awesome street car and really fun show car. It was fun on the track, but basically during this weekend event with a tuner shop I worked with back then, they had us Indy Motorsports Ranch, and we were just doing all these different exercises for racing. There's no drifting involved. But one of them, which we actually teach on our, like, we have a whole How to Drift playlist on our YouTube, and I love this exercise because I really think it gives you that feeling quickly without really having to know how to drift. But it's basically you set cones in a big circle, maybe like 200 feet wide, and you go around that circle just driving, maybe second gear, and you go faster and faster until you experience the rear wheels. Oh, sometimes it's the front, depending on how the car is set up, but generally it'll be the rear wheels losing traction. And what we were learning is to experience that loss of traction and recover. But we were on a big skid pad, and I ended up mashing the throttle and drifting around the cones. And I was like, oh, this is sick. And like, I had watched Tokyo Drift. That was like my experience with drifting. But that feeling, I was just like instantly like, this is cool. I wanna do this. So I mean, that's how I started, really. And then started going to our local track, Musselman Honda Circuit. And since I was in school, I had like weird random days off, and so we'd go on like a Wednesday and there'd be nobody there, and I would just hit corner after corner after corner and just kind of learn how to drift.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And by the way, Tokyo Drift is probably the best Fast and the Furious movie.
I agree. I watched
Yeah.
it like 1,000 times.
Right.
No joke. I see what's funny. I used to, when I was like starting, every night before I'd go drifting, I'd watch Tokyo Drift. I was like, such
Dude, you gotta get that hype up,
nerd,
right?
But I don't care. I would just get myself hyped up by watching Tokyo Drift. I was like,
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
do this.
Yeah, see, that was me, but like with all the like European videos. So like when I first started drifting, that was when like all the big like Russian teams were started drifting, and like all the European stuff was there. And I just remember I would just cycle those videos, and it was a long time where no one could stump me on a video I hadn't seen, because I would just sit there for hours just watching YouTube videos of it before I'd go out to the track, or the day before, same thing, just to get hyped up.
Dude, I remember going over to your house for beers, and there'd be 4 or 5 of you, and just sitting there like zombies watching these videos. And I'm there wanting to hang out with these guys, and they're just like glued to the computer screen watching video after video. Oh, a beer, thanks, man. Okay, no more drifting.
See, what's funny about that is like, I think like that would have helped me. I didn't even know of D1, or that, like, I didn't even really know drifting was a thing. I didn't even know what Formula Drift was, honestly. And so like it was literally just Tokyo Drift for me, and maybe some random like Gymkhana or Hoonigan like Ken Block drifting around, drifting, right? It's like all-wheel drive. Like, it wasn't even the same thing. And so like I think if I had watched some of those videos, I might have learned something. But it was like super, and I had no friends in it. Like I had no like all my friends, I was in a fraternity, and like all my friends were not really even into cars. So it was just this weird, like, all my friends didn't even understand it. They're like, what are you doing like Wednesday? Like, what do you mean you're going to the track? And it's just, I don't know. So that was like, I don't know. It's a weird, unique journey, but very.
But I kind of feel like in some respects, like that might make you a better driver in the end than others, because you did have like a different path, and the way you did start was almost more of like a road racing, like track day type start, whereas like you'll get different car control and car skills that way, you know what I mean? Because I know that's something that I talked about, I think our last episode, was that like I really enjoy doing like parking lot autocrosses and stuff in my 240s, because it's exactly what you just said. It's like that spot where like you really get a feel where your car wants to let go and where it doesn't, and it's just a different skill to learn. And it's I don't know, it's something interesting, to even feel like, oh man, that was weird because the boost kicked in or whatever, and it like just throws it, and how to recover from that. And it helps in a lot of situations, I think, even on the track and drifting, because it's just going to get you in and out of situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. Like, whenever I talk to people, and I actually heard this early on because I did go to Bondurant school for like racing stuff early on, which was huge, very helpful. And I tell people that a lot. They're like, what's the first step I should do to get in drifting? I'm like, go to racing school. Like, learn the line, learn the track, learn how to drive a car well, just on the track, not drifting, because all that stuff is applicable and transfers forward. And if you miss it, I think you miss out on some stuff. I think you can learn it later on, and that's fine. But personally, I think you miss some skills. So that's cool.
I agree, and in some respects, like I said, maybe it'll get you out of a bad situation, just because you have that little bit of car control where you know how to get your car to grip back up. Like you were saying, you really take it from having no grip to grip and figuring that out. And like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to do weird pedal movements and all kinds of stuff to not hit things or stay off a wall or, whatever it happens to be. It's just to push yourself forward. It's just a different skill you learn.
Oh, which reminds me, I wanted to ask you, Matt, I think you're a little bit younger than we are. Have you ever allegedly drifted on the street at all? Was that part of your kind of upbringing, or was it strictly on the track?
I mean, I would be lying if I said I've never drifted on the street.
Allegedly.
But I was not one of those people that really did it. Like, there was one warehouse spot, and I found out about it because for like a year, right after I started, this is what's weird. So I did like 2 drift events with my Genesis. It wasn't built as a drift car, and I like didn't even really drift. I just was like, right after that track day event, I was like, I want to go see what this is all about. And then I quickly learned, hey, we should build like a purpose-built drift car. So I got like this crappy little S14, and it had like a 89 5.0 Mustang V8 in it. Like, it was like a $3,000 build. And right when that got finished, all the tracks had closed down. It was like in Arizona for like a year. And so we had nowhere to really go. And I didn't know about Tucson yet. And so that's when I found out about this like warehouse street spot. And I did do like a couple nights there. But honestly, like, and now we've gone back. Some of our how-to videos you'll notice are in this warehouse area. But I'm not someone who like practiced a bunch on the street and learned it that way. I know that's super common with a lot of drifters, but
do you think oops, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you think that changes how quickly you learn? Like as far as like if you only pretty much drive on a track, or if like you start for the first year on the street, do you think like there's a different outcome there, and like how quickly you learn as far as just because it gives you a different like set of anticipation?
Well, but
I would feel like you would get the same thing if you drove a bunch of different tracks. You know what I mean? Because you see different stuff and you adjust to what's in front of you rather than just doing the same thing every time.
Yeah, but a big parking lot like a warehouse or something, that's totally different from the back roads. Like legit, we're in rural Oregon, very mountainous, lots of twisty, curvy. It's one thing to drift on those. It's something entirely different to be in a warehouse district where you have a 4,000 square foot skid pad, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, I don't know, like, if you're, okay, so, like, down here, we don't have a whole lot of that stuff, but, like, let's say you're in Japan or a similar situation, which is, like, what you guys are saying, where you have these mountains and toge, whatever, then, sure, I think you could learn a lot and progress pretty fast, but generally, I always say the track is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
In a controlled place, right? Even on, like, I think going back now, I could progress pretty fast on the street, but I know how to drift, right? And I've done it, and like I can zone out certain things. But when you're just getting going, it's like chaos. Like you're looking at your steering wheel and your handbrake, and now you're adding in, you're looking out for cars, or maybe it's not well lit, or you're worried about cops, whatever it is. So I mean, I'm a huge proponent of keeping it on the track.
Oh, yeah,
well, plus, dude, on the track, you have runoff space, so if you go in a little too hard, you're like, dang, now I got to try it again. If you do that on the street, well, you just wrecked your car. Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, curb, a car.
Yeah, anything. I mean, and I know for me, because I allegedly learned on the streets, because that was back before there was nowhere to drift really in Oregon at that point in time, but yeah, things just changed so quickly, and that's why I'm not a fan of street drifting. Even though it was crazy and fun times, and I wouldn't take it back, it's not something I suggest, because it's like I can't tell you how many situations where like I pretty much just threw my hands up as I'm spinning circles, like I hope I don't hit anything, like like between two K barriers on like a off ramp or something. I mean that never happened.
There's still a Type X S13 bumper.
Oh yeah,
on the side of a hill somewhere on the road going up to Vista Point, or the Vista House, Crown Point in Portland. Anyway, sorry, we're getting off track there, Matt. So
that's cool.
You basically taught yourself to drift, but then making that leap into Formula D, was that a pretty big leap for you, or did it feel like a natural progression of what you were doing?
I think you should go back a little further before that. How long did you drift before you went into like Pro-Am? And started, because obviously you had to go through Pro-Am to get into Pro2 and all that. So how did like that all go for you in the timeline?
Ryan, keep me on track. Good job, man.
So I'm like so bad with time, but I believe it was like only a year, and then I did my first top drift round, and then we did like one Vegas drift round, and then I think that next year we did a whole season of Vegas drift. And then another season of Vegas drift. And then I actually didn't get my license. I petitioned to get in. We were having so many problems with our Genesis Coupe. It was like overbuilt, and it would just freaking break on us constantly. But I had been training a bunch in a Bisu and driving so much. And like by like the third or fourth round, I was like, this is like, I don't want to do this next year. I'm ready. Like I'm not. Yeah. And so I went to Formula Drift, and I was like, hey, I know, and I've gotten flamed a little bit for this because people are like, oh, you just petitioned your way in, but whatever. Like, I think if you've seen me drive, you can see that I'm more than fine to be in Formula Drift. And so, like, maybe not, and that's fine, but I was like, I was like, I'm not going to spend the amount of money and time and effort I'm putting in for Pro-Am, because it doesn't have the exposure. It's not the caliber that I want to be in. And I was basically at that point running definitely a Pro2 program in like the last couple rounds of my Pro-Am. And so I petitioned and I was like, hey, I'm ready to go. I know I'll compete. It didn't work out, obviously, if you guys followed us at all this last year. But anyways, that's pretty much how I got in. And last year with Formula Drift, our freaking car didn't get finished until halfway through the season, and then broke on us third and fourth round. So it was.
Yeah, I was curious about that car. I was curious about that car because, so like obviously you're a builder and you built stuff. So, because I know that I watched a couple of your videos and like I know you had problems with like some of your fuel lines and stuff like that with that car. So like whatever kind of became of that, and like how were you not as involved in building that car because of time restraints, or was it like just something where you were like it was just stuff you didn't know? Or
and maybe we should talk about what kind of car it is too.
Or yeah, that too.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, it's the R34 Skyline coupe, and so I started building that 2 years before. I started building that in Pro-Am. I started building it before, like 2 years before we were going to enter into Formula Drift. And I started collecting parts, planning the build, the whole thing. I had like a booklet of how I wanted to do everything. I had every part like literally sitting in my garage. And then we went to a partner of ours, or an ex-partner now, and he was going to do all the fab work. And then we were going to take it and do all like the plumbing, get the paint done, get the wiring done, all that stuff. But he got, I don't want to talk crap or anything like that, so we'll zoom through this, but basically he got so far behind timeline, and with me being in grad school at that point, and it literally becoming like February before Formula Drift season, it was like, all right, well, we're going to have to do everything in California out of your shop, the plumbing, wiring, all that stuff, and I think it was just rushed, quite honestly. His focus was on with a different team at that point, and it didn't end up really getting done until, I want to say, end of June, I think was our first test day with the freaking car.
Man, that's late.
And so I missed round 1 and 2. Round 1, we rented a car, and it broke on me on the third lap. And then round 2, I was like, well, I'm not going to spend $8,000 and rent another car. We'll just go and, support the series and, hang out with the fans and stuff. And then round 3, it really wasn't ready, but I was like, we have to go. I mean, we have no choice. Our season's kind of already trashed, but I'm trying to remember what brake was on which one, but I don't know. It didn't work round 3 or round 4 because we never had that test time, It was rushed. And a lot of stuff, like we had really quality parts on it, but like you asked, when it got to that point with the wiring and the fluids and things like that, I was a little bit out of touch because I was literally in grad school and starting another business, and so I think like lower quality parts were used and it wasn't done right, and I wasn't able to like go there constantly and watch it, and so
So are you more involved now then? Is it or do you just have a different partner that takes care of that for you? You know what I mean?
No, so it's our garage, and I have it's basically Haugen Racing is me and Jameson. Jameson's my crew chief / cameraman, actor, like a bunch of shit. But it's basically us two doing everything. We do the YouTube, work on the cars, maintenance the cars, build the cars, all that stuff, which has been much better because now we've gotten it to actually be a working, reliable car. We completely redid the fuel system and a bunch of other stuff. So
yep, I know how that goes.
Yeah. No, it sucked, man. Like if I can vent for a sec, it sucked because like I did petition my way in, and I know that I'm more than capable of running Pro 2 and even Pro 1 and doing well, and then to have the car not work and just have that crappy like rookie season, it's a bummer, dude. Like,
yeah, that's a huge bummer.
It's not how I want to do it all, and so. Surprisingly, though, a lot of people have been pretty understanding. Like, they're like, yeah, like, shit happens. But that's not how I wanted to go in. I wanted to go in guns a-blazing, Like,
oh, yeah,
like,
everybody
hey,
does,
I
right?
belong here. Like...
Can I assume you're financing this yourself?
Yeah. Yep.
That makes
My
it
family
even
helps me.
well, sure, but that makes it even harder. You know, I know that a lot of the people that are fully sponsored, if they have some tough times, they can just be like, yeah, you know, with the car, there's problems, and they're not really involved in it. But when it comes to like your car with your money, and you're the one talking to people about how you want it done, and you're the one spending your dime, it just makes it all the more frustrating, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and like a note on that, like I know a lot of friends and other people in Formula Drift, like they have their dad or a family member helping and being like the leader there. I don't have that. Like my dad doesn't know enough about it, and he doesn't really want to anyways, and so it's all me. Like, and yeah, so I'm doing my best, you know.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. It's more rewarding in the end, right?
I hope so.
Right? I mean, that's what we all hope for.
I know this isn't drift related, or maybe it is, but I know that you got your Bachelor's of Science in Entrepreneurialism. Is that right?
So I got my Bachelor's of Science in Entrepreneurship at ASU, and then I got my Master's of Science in Entrepreneurship and Innovation at University of Southern California.
Okay, that is quite the lead up to a resume. What are you doing now? You said you're just starting a new business, so can I ask, what are you in the business of?
Yeah, so when we were building the car and like prepping for Formula Drift, I was in grad school. It was like an accelerated 1-year master's program, and so I was trying to do Haugen Racing school, and then I also was starting a business actually in the health industry, and that ended up shutting down in January. I don't know why I got happy there. It's not good. I lost all the money. But basically from there it was kind of an ultimatum in January, and that's probably why you've seen us way more active since January, is because at that point it was like, hey, I lost all my money. I have Haugen Racing. It's not a business, but what can we do with it? And so then since January, for about 4 months now, it's been full-time Haugen Racing, and we're just trying to make this thing work. So that's why, like, some people have been asking, we're not doing Formula Drift this year, which I think actually worked out just fine for us. I know, unfortunately, the season's gotten really messed up with everything going on in the world, but I think it worked out because we weren't going to do it anyways. Like, we're basically taking this year to build up the YouTube, build up the merchandise, and make a business out of this thing before we get back into competition. So,
well, sure, because the social media aspect is nearly as important as the drifting aspect these days, it seems like, isn't it?
I guess, yeah, it's crazy. I know a lot of us wish it wasn't that way, but it's funny, like, having this pressure on to make it work, like, we found our niche, I think, and that's combining cars and comedy, and, like, I freaking love it. And I'm like, I never wanted to be just like a professional drifter and competition guy. I wanted to do more stuff. I have a lot more interests and things I want to do. And so what's cool is like doing cars and comedy. Now our focus is moved to entertaining. So like when we're talking, we're not a race team, we're an entertainment company, which sounds weird. But that's what Haugen Racing is. It's an entertainment company. Drifting is a big piece of it, and competition will be an aspect of it in the future, but it'll be part of it, right? It's not like the whole thing.
What would you call that? Driftertainment?
Drifttainment?
That's awesome.
You could be the first one to coin that term. I'm just saying.
There you go.
So I want to coin, on a serious note though, I want to coin automotive parody. So if anybody's listening, that's what we tag all our comedy videos with automotive parody. I think that would be cool if that term took off. So if anybody wants to start hashtagging that.
Dude, we're going to use those hashtags now. We're going to start doing an initial D overdub. I have some great ideas, and we'll start using that hashtag.
I love it. Heck yeah. Let's make it a wave.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. No, I like hearing the, like, you know, pretty much coming from nothing and not having... Mm-hmm. You know, you weren't spoon-fed and, you know, all that, and weren't just, like, led into the life. It's nice to know that there's a lot of other guys out there, you know, because I know, well, that's where we are, you know. I'm in the same boat. Just, I know I sent you a few pictures of the Mercedes and whatnot, but we're pretty much doing that same thing. It's like, all right, let's make this shop work. Let's kind of go on to this new thing in life, because I'm the same way as you. Like, I always definitely had the dream of competing FD and doing all that, but wouldn't say that was an end goal. I just, that was just something that was awesome, to me, and it would be the coolest thing ever. But to me, like, just like you said, I think there's a lot of other things I want to do and teach people and all that. I really, really like teaching people drifting, getting them into drifting, taking them for their first drift rides, just trying to help people in that way. And so, I don't know, we'll see what all this stuff comes about, but hopefully, maybe we can have a drift school someday, or maybe we get some more tracks out here. I don't know.
I just realized that, ironically, all three, an entrepreneurial angle, you're working for yourself, I'm working for myself, on very different veins. He's building cars, I'm trying to put a medical device company together, and, you're doing what you're doing, and it's like, is this really what our generation is doing now? I guess it is.
It kind of is.
I guess, yeah. I mean, that's what's funny. Like, my mom was, she worked for General Electric and was like that total, like, career path, and you get all the benefits and you get this sweet retirement. But a lot of that stuff's not the same anymore, and it's not as available. And what they're demanding out of, like, employees now, I don't think really would coincide with a racing career. Like, I don't think, like, my mom, after the business shut down, she was like, okay, well, now I think it's finally time for you to go, like, start a career, like, go, be a manager somewhere, see what you can do with your degree. And I was like, well, that's the end of racing. Like, they're going to have me working 60, 70 hours a week, and my whole life's going to be in this company. I don't see how, I'm going to do that. And I mean, I can race, on the weekends or whatever, but so
I tried doing that when I was working for this last engineering firm. The problem was, on a Friday, if I pull up in my race car, because I didn't have a trailer, and then I'd be like, "Oh, boss, hey, I'm sorry, man, I forgot. I got a doctor's appointment at 2." And then they hear that thing fire up at 2:00 as I'm leaving. It's like, yeah, doctor's appointment, sure.
That's too funny. I just do want to say, though, for anybody listening, like, you can still do it, though. Like, I think you could still have a career and do, like, a 70-hour job, whatever it is, and figure out the racing thing. But I think ideally... Yeah,
I definitely think you can. I think you just have to have the right people around you. Because I think that... I wouldn't say that I didn't have the right people around me. None of us knew what we were doing and all of that, but that was kind of my situation. I was working, like, man, there were sometimes it was like 160 hours in 2 weeks, stuff like that, just to make the car builds work. And like, I would fly home a couple times I drove home for events, and it's just like, but I have a real big problem with my car not being to a certain standard and whatnot, and so everything took, way longer than expected, and not everything worked out because there's only a couple of us working on it, kind of like you guys, and we were just learning as we go.
Sounds like producer Nick's Dream Channel. Coming soon, we'll alert you guys once he's doing it. Yeah, man, I don't know, it's just, I find it very interesting that we're sitting here talking to you, and all of us have kind of chose to forge our own paths and make our own way so that we can make our own destinies, make our own timelines. And it's in some ways it's kind of just not even a car guy trait, because not all car guys do that or can do that, but it's really kind of a, I don't know, drifter street race. Yeah, I know you didn't do too much of the street racing, but it is kind of a drifter trait, if you know what I mean. Like, you hit a certain point in your life where you're like, you know what, I want to work for myself. I want to build something for myself.
Well, and I kind of feel like it's what you were saying. Like, for me, it's really, really hard for me to put in all the effort and all the things that I did, especially, being a welder and stuff. Like, my job was really physical, and so it's like, it's hard to work on the cars and do all this stuff afterwards when it's like, everyone always gives us crap for being last minute, and, some of us, I'm definitely a procrastinator. I mean, don't get me wrong, but... like, there's a lot of work and a lot of things going on, and you have to try to get all that stuff prepped and go mount 20 tires and load all this stuff, and it's like, there's only so much time in the day,
Matt, do you find that true? I think the saying goes, the cobbler's children have the worst shoes, or the carpenter's house is always the least finished,
Yeah, I mean, so just for, like, clarification, the one thing, like, I did have a lot of help with is my parents are fairly well off, and they have helped me financially throughout the years. And so that's one thing I had that I know some people don't have, but I didn't have any push or help with like anything I was doing. It was just like, hey, we'll help you out and help you kind of chase your dream. So I did have that one thing. I don't know if I wouldn't be here without that for sure. They've been awesome that way. And then after I lost all my money on the other business, they're like, well, we'll give you a year to help fund Haugen Racing and see if you can make it work. So
get your shit together.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate that I've had that help, and that's been huge. But I know some people, like I've seen, like they have, they have the money, and then their dad has racing background, he's running the team, and I'm like, I don't know, I'd be lying if sometimes I said I wasn't jealous of some of that help, But
oh yeah, me too. Me too.
But I think what's cool though is like you kind of mentioned earlier. This may be a slower route and more painful, but there is some gratification from it, like learning it all yourself and making your own decisions. And I think you miss out on some stuff if someone's really, kind of pulling you along through the whole thing. So not there's anything wrong with that. Like I think it's
just like the street drifting versus track drifting when you start. It's just a different curve. I feel like and you can get there either way.
I think the kids call it edging.
Yeah.
It just takes you a little longer to get there.
That's outrageous.
What else you got for us there, Ryan?
I definitely wanted to know. I guess you're not competing this year, but do you ever plan to go to Turk Bash at Park? Because being Pro 2, you'll go and compete in Seattle, right? Because that's one of the stops.
I mean, sure, yeah, that would be dope.
You should definitely
gotta do it.
Yeah,
not on my plan or list, but I'd definitely be down if somebody's like, yeah, come on out here or whatever. But we're right now we're taking the quarantine pretty seriously, so we're not doing any events, which sucks. But I'm around my parents a lot, and they're older. So, and then also Jameson has a young kid, and he's 6. So, if that stuff's still happening, in the fall, I hope it's not. Then we probably won't be doing much events, but cross our fingers.
Yeah. Well, definitely the next year, if you go to compete in Seattle, keep that in mind that every year after Seattle, they do the Turk Bash. So we'd love to see you out there at Park. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, most definitely.
That'd be sick. Yeah.
It's an amazing track.
It's fun. I'm hoping by next year. I don't know. I'm really right now it's our focus is on the YouTube and making Haugen Racing profitable. And so if by next year we can swing it, for sure. But our program, we don't get a lot of benefit from being in the Formula Drift pits and at the events. I know that may sound crazy to some people, but we usually, if you guys have ever seen a picture on our Instagram or something, when we go to a show, we have a huge setup and a bunch of cars, and we take up a bunch of space. And it's kind of all part of what we call the HR experience. And we're not able to do that at Formula Drift. And so until it's really something where we can just spend the money or sponsors can support us and we can have fun with it, we won't do competing, because we can go to a smaller event and do demos and ride-alongs and interact with way more fans one-on-one and do it that way. So
that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm kind of at that point where I'm setting myself up that hopefully in a year or so I can kind of travel to other states and do drifting and go out and about and see other things, because there's so much to learn from other people, and there's just so many tracks to drive that I would definitely want to drive something else.
Well, and it comes back around to that whole social media thing. The grassroots are powerful. Real powerful.
They are.
We're a show that talks about Pacific Northwest for the most part, but we've talked to drifters from all over the country, but when it comes to our media, well, the media that we were going to make before COVID, thanks a lot, and the coverage and the events and stuff like that, it's primarily Pacific Northwest, and we grew like that, just fast. People eat it up, they want it, they like that hyper locality, so there is a lot of value in being around people from the grassroots.
Yeah, I think the grassroots has a ton of power there, and I think people are finally starting to realize it. as well, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think before, like, grassroots and kind of a lot of that local stuff was kind of frowned upon, like, oh, look at the beat up crappy cars, and, you know, there's all the jokes and whatever. But I think it's kind of changed a little bit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
sure, yeah.
there's definitely more quality cars out there, which I'm sure helps. But I mean, you still have your beat up everyday 240s and whatever, you know.
Oh, speaking of cars, we're starting to run up against our time here, but Matt, we need to ask you a question that we ask every drifter, or try to, every drifter that comes on here. What is your dream build, like, no holds bar, and don't do something cheesy like, I want to finish my car. No, just, like, what is your dream?
I was very fortunate enough that I did it. My R34. Hands down. That was literally my dream car. Like, I did everything the way I wanted it to. It's like, now it's fucking perfect.
RB26 or?
No, it's a Whipple supercharged LS.
Yeah,
LS3.
Yeah, you need to go check out that car, Andy.
Yeah.
I watched a couple videos of that
horsepower.
car. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Gas or corn fed?
It's Ignite Red 114.
Damn.
It's balls to the wall, man. Like, we didn't hold back on any parts, anything. Like, it's fucking powder coated paint, like 7 layers of chrome vinyl, like everything you can think of. That is my dream build, and I'm fortunate enough I got to do it. So that's what hurt me even more. Like, just so you guys can understand, that's what hurt me even more last year, seeing it fail and having such a shitty Formula Drift season. Is like, that's my baby. Like, that was literally like my golden child, you know? And so, yeah, it hurts still.
Yep, I know that feeling.
That's my dream build, for sure.
What's the power output on it?
It was, it overheated the Dynapack dyno, but it was like 930 at the wheels.
I was going to say
it's on like low boost too. Like,
oh, yeah.
Shit's retarded.
It's ridiculous.
I was going to say, because isn't the LS3 427? Or am I wrong?
The LS3, oh god, I should know off the top of my head, LS boy, but no, 7 liters 427. Ours is a 427 LS3, so it's bored and stroked, which they really like. So CBM Motorsports builds our motors. They really like using that LS3 block. I don't exactly know why, but bringing that to a 7 liter rather than using an LS7 when they do like the Whipple supercharger on it, and yeah, it's fucking savage, dude. Like, it's so funny that like the fanboys come in and hate that's not RB, and I'm just like, if you heard this thing in person, you would be like, okay, I get it.
Well, it'll run all day long. It'll make 1,000 horsepower reliably for the most part. I mean, there are people putting 30,000 miles on 1,000 horsepower LS. So I mean,
yeah,
you're going to be able to run that thing all season long, 2 seasons. You know, who knows?
Well, and
that's like, so. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like that was always what we said back in the day. Like, if you're gonna put some weird motor or whatever that isn't like manufacturer specific, you got to make at least like 900 horse, 900 horse, and then it's all right. Otherwise, it's like, what'd you do that for?
Yeah, well, and so here's the thing, like that car, I wanted. This is why it was my dream build. I really wanted to have, and this is all me, right? So it's not necessarily what other people think is the peak, but I wanted to have the peak of style and the peak of performance, and I wanted to do both. I didn't want to sacrifice either one. And so literally every single part, I thought through and looked at all options, whether it was custom, whatever it was, and made sure it was going to meet 110% style and 110% performance. So this is like truly a race car, but I could literally go to a car show and get a trophy, which I'll probably never do, but that's what I wanted. I want it to be something that like molded those two worlds, because I think that's something that I think it may be coming back now, but for a while in Formula Drift, and I know they get flamed for that, like the cars were becoming like just true race cars and NASCARs, which I get and I understand from a racer level, but from someone who loves show cars and style and, you know, JDM, Hot Boy and all that stuff, I was like, fuck, all that stuff's gone now. And I never believed that you couldn't have both. And so for me, for what I like, that car is the epitome of both. And so that's kind of, the LS was the perfect motor to do both those things.
You know what, dude? You sold me. Sold me. I'm sold.
He thought that you answered really lame at first, but I think he changed his mind.
Well, because I hate it when people are like, oh, bro, the car I'm doing is the perfect build. But normally, it's when people are like, yeah, I've got a 1984 Ford Thunderbird. You sold me on it. I'm sold.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a salesman.
So was
no, and it's all personal, right? That's probably no one else's perfect build, but for me, it is. And I'm just blessed that I got to do it. So
I love that, dude.
I know you're looking for a different car, but
no, it's fine. I thought you might have gone with like the whole. If I could have my Hyundai Genesis back and I'd put R34 suspension under it, but the R34, I completely understand.
I hated my Genesis. But yeah, cars like I almost quit drifting legitimately twice because of that car. Like we were at one of the Vegas drift rounds, and it just we were chasing. I think it was round 3, and we were set up to get our license that year. Like everything was going well, and a freaking control arm broke, and we could not get it fixed, and we got knocked out in top 8. And I was just like,
man.
And it had broken before. And it was just like that would never happen on any of the other cars. It was like this weird, like one of the like traction arms, but then the wheel wouldn't hold straight, and it was just like. And
that was on the rear.
Yeah, and I was just like, I just want to quit. I was like, this car.
Man, that car.
That feels so much like when I first built my S13 to go to Pro-Am. It was just like, I built mine early enough that like not all the parts I bought worked together with each other. Because my car squatted, because like, so I have, and I still have the same set of because I have Coney race inserts and then like ground control springs and all. It's kind of like a custom setup. It's not just like an off the shelf. And so my car squatted a ton in the rear, and it would just bend the arms. And so like I went like a whole event, and like we're just like going, and I'm just like, we're doing all this stuff, like there's just no traction. Then finally, like I just happen to be standing behind the car, and I'm like, wow, that tire's pointed way out. And then I like go to the other side, and I'm like, wow, why is that one matching it? And it's just like, because it just perfectly bent both those traction arms.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it just so many random things like that. It's the same thing. It just drove me nuts. It made me want to quit sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Listen, the drift world is the king of random. Matt, we are right up against our time, dude. Can you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and what you have going on?
For sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Haugen Racing, guys. It's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok now, actually. I know not a lot of us are into TikTok that are a little older, but we're having fun with it. We do like short little comedy skits on it and stuff. But really, just go check out the YouTube. I would absolutely love it. Our whole career is honestly riding on the YouTube channel. So
nice.
Haugen Racing.
People, you got to go and check this out. Oh, yeah. Matt's going to be the next Belle Delphine. So, instead of selling your bath water, you could sell your used motor oil from rounds of FD next year.
We'll sell the blood and sweat from the events.
You just have to pay a guy to run around with a cup, and he's just catching all your sweat, so you can sell it later.
Here's my ripped T-shirt from round 3.
Yes, perfect.
That's awesome.
Hey, Matt, thank you again so much for coming on, and I look forward to speaking to you again. Okay.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, if I come back, that'd be too fun.
Oh yeah,
hopefully
definitely.
I come back and we're like, hey, stuff's working. We're just
right,
we're killing it now.
Right. Hopefully both of us aren't broke and jobless.
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll finally be looking for.
If we are, let's talk again anyway.
Yeah. Right.
And
definitely.
have some beers and be sad.
We're definitely gonna talk once I get something that I can slide. So it's coming. It's coming.
Oh yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, we're gonna do some stuff too. I think here shortly we're gonna get me on video trying to drift on simulator. I've never drifted on a racing simulator, so
we're gonna do a practice run right after this episode.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that should be interesting.
Hey Matt, thank you again, my friend. We're gonna let you go. You have a good one, okay?
You guys too. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks buddy.
See ya.
There he goes.
That's awesome.
Good guy to talk to.
Yeah.
I like just kind of the pure drift. He does it for the love. He built what he wanted.
Yep. And it's cool because, like when you, just like if you just look into his Facebook a little bit and the YouTube and all that, like you wouldn't think, he's as down to earth as he is or whatever, or, like he didn't have any help and he wasn't, spoon fed and whatnot, like we were talking about. It's cool to be able to talk to them and just get that different perspective.
For sure. Well, I tell you what, man, I look forward to getting this whole thing with the pandemic all sorted out. I look forward to getting back to real life. I look forward to starting to go to some events, and not only that, meeting with some of these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what's shaken up since all this has happened. Because a lot of people have gone different routes and changed what they're doing and all of that. So I'm really curious to see what all this brings.
Yeah, who's still here? Who's gone?
Yep.
Who's going to rise to the top? This might be an opportunity. I talk about that sometimes. Fortunes are made in the lowest of economic times, and I don't think that this is going to be really any different. I think a lot of people are going to be able to find their footing now.
I mean, yeah, definitely there's people that are hurting and there's businesses that are hurting and whatnot, but I think it's just a give and take at that point. I think that maybe it's a time things were shaken up. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well, Ryan, thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you, Andy.
Of course, you guys can check us out on Facebook and on Instagram at Clutch Kick Radio. Is that still a thing?
Oh, yeah.
I'm working a million hours a week. I know Ryan is too, but we try to post on there once in a while.
Yeah, I try to do at least 2 posts a week, just kind of letting everyone know what time we're doing the show. It's either 4 or 5 o'clock, live every Friday. I think next week we're going to shoot for 4 o'clock, but usually we try to do a post on Monday and Wednesday and maybe even Friday to let everybody know about the show and what's going on.
And man, our friend Casey Miller has been kicking out some amazing photos. We need to see if we can get some of those shared over to the page.
I don't know how that guy puts out so many photos. He puts out just an immense amount of photos as well. Not even just the quality, but 300-400 photo albums and stuff like that. It's incredible.
You guys have to go and check that out. We'll continue to work with him and bring that kind of media over to the page. But in the meantime, we want to thank you for tuning in. We want to thank you for telling a friend. We rely on that, so we appreciate you doing it. And I appreciate you, Ryan.
I appreciate you, Andy.
Producer Nick, we appreciate you. And for Producer Nick and Ryan and Matt Haugen, this is Andy. We will see you next time.